What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Thursday, October 7th, and it's time to preview Thursday night football. On this episode, we're going to do a gambling preview of Rams and Seahawks in the feed, the Brady Quinn Football Show. Pew, pew, pew. Talking about mid-quarter season awards and some Urban Meyer chat. Of course, we'll recap Thursday night football live on YouTube. If you want to see our live shows on Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night after TNF, SNF, and MNF wrap up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/pick6, and you will get an alert when we go live. Obviously, you can just follow Pick Six Pod on Twitter or at Will Brinson, and we will tweet them out as well. But if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button and leave your best prop, because we'll give some out. Hopefully, Sully. They'll be better Sully with 3 L's, because maybe Sully with 3 L's is correct, because we took some L's on our props on Monday night. I think I plugged all mine into Action Network. Somebody was joking in the recap. It was like Brinson's on the lam from his bookie, because we did so poorly on Monday night. I mean, I don't know if I hit a single prop.
I think the only one I hit was the Renfro receptions. That was the only one. That was the only one I felt good about, and then everything else, like you said, Sully with a few L's in there. I don't know if it's just 3.
I mean, one time I interviewed Sean Merriman in his third or fourth season, I think. It was my second season of the Super Bowl, and I was like, "Yeah, man, NC State guy, you guys gave it to us pretty rough." And he was like, "Oh yeah. He's like, we call him Philip with 4 L's because he can never beat Maryland." It's like, oh, ouch. If you want to use your football, you need to make some money back after listening to our Monday night props. Use your football expertise to win big time cash prizes. Now's your chance with football picking from CBS Sports. Correctly pick the whole slate of games, and you can win the $100,000 jackpot this week and every week of the season by visiting cbssports.com/picks. Even if no one wins the weekly jackpot, we're still giving away $1,000 of guaranteed cash to the winner each week and $5,000 for the season-long champ. Don't wait. Make your picks. Compete for the $100,000 jackpot by visiting cbssports.com/picks today. All right, so we got a barn burner on our hands here. NFC West, a great game in the NFC West. The Rams are at the Seahawks. Seahawks have is that correct? I'm sorry, Devo. That's my fault for not being prepared per usual. But I believe, isn't the spread the Rams are -2.5, I think, Debo.
Yes, the Rams are 2.5. Seahawks are getting 2.5.
I hate doing that to Debo on a live show, because I could have looked at the rundown and told him that ahead of time, because I know that he's just like No, he's so prepared and so ahead of time that I feel bad that a simple glance on my part could have fixed it. The Rams are 2.5-point favorites over the Seahawks on the road. It has been steamed up to 2.5 -115 in some places. It could get as high as 3. Kind of surprising, Sully, because the Rams beat the Bucks, then lose to the Cardinals. Seahawks look bad for 2 games, but then they beat the 49ers. Obviously, they won the game.
Yep.
Maybe didn't win it. Maybe this line makes sense. I don't know. I'm always a little surprised at the idea that Russell Wilson would be a dog in primetime at home, though.
Well, especially on Thursday nights. I mean, if you look back at his history on Thursday games, 7-1-2 against the spread. He's really been great in these games. But again, it's tough. Sometimes when you look at those, those trends over time, you do have to kind of take them with a grain of salt too, because again, the 2020 or the 2019 Seattle Seahawks are different than the 2021 Seattle Seahawks. So you do kind of have to take that into account, even if they have the same head coach, quarterback, and those main pillars there. To me, again, I like the Rams in this one, and I love it that it's still below a field goal here. If it starts to get to 3, maybe you start thinking about it a little bit more. But if you can find it, and it's pretty widely available, it's available at Caesars at 2.5. To me, that one you still hit. They are that game against Arizona. Right now, the Cardinals look like a wagon. They just look like a team offensively that's just cooking on all cylinders. And when you have a so-so game from Matthew Stafford, I mean, they put up 20 points in total. It's just not going to be enough when you go up against that team. So now I think that one is a little bit of a wake-up call for them. Hey, listen, we were 3-0 going into that game. We're clearly not as good as we think we are. You get centered back down to earth, and you go up against the Seahawks opponent that hasn't looked great offensively. I know Russell Wilson had the 3 total touchdown game last week, but they've kind of been Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. So to me, if you can get this when it's still under a field goal, I really like the Rams on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a tough spot because they are on the road against a divisional opponent in primetime, and that divisional opponent has Russell Wilson. But I think this is really interesting, via Dwayne McFarland of PFF, excuse me. not that you would read anything other than CBS Sports waiver wire stuff, but they go through like every single team over the PFF, and it's like utilization trends, which is really helpful. The Seahawks under Shane Waldron through 4 weeks, despite 46% of the snaps coming when trailing in week 4, they just kept acting like they were like leading, and that's not how you want your offense to play. Through 4 weeks, plays per game, the Seahawks ranked 32nd in the NFL with shifts in terms of like motion, pre-snap motion shifts, all of that stuff, 29th and 30th in terms of 11 personnel usage in the NFL. In other words, new boss, same as the old boss. And it's Pete Carroll, and he's doing what Pete Carroll wants to do, regardless of who his coordinator is. And they're not really opening things up for Russell Wilson. I mean, every hype piece about the Seahawks this offseason was that Seattle was going to be running a ton of no huddle, a ton of tempo, cranking it up, being aggressive downfield, or, taking short shots to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and moving quickly, moving guys all over the formation, et cetera. And it's just not happening. Like and as a result, coupled with a bad defense that got lucky against the 49ers just in terms of some bounces, and then Trey Lance has to come in the second half. I tend to agree with you, and I would probably end up taking the Rams here. I just wish it was like a pick 'em so I could feel – I feel like a donkey laying the chalk on on Thursday night in prime time again. Like but I think the Rams are a better team.
Right. And that. I mean, sometimes it just comes down to something as simple as that. Yes, you can look at all the trends, you can look at the situations, but when, push comes to shove here, you look on paper, you say the Rams are a better team. They just are much better coached, in my opinion. They have a better quarterback, comparable quarterback play. I don't know if Stafford's better or worse than Wilson. They're probably even at this point, but I like the Rams offense better than I like the Seattle offense. So to me, it just makes a ton of sense here. Again, when you have a line here where it's still under a field goal, to me, we can start to have a little bit more of a deeper conversation if this thing starts to get to 3 and Seattle
3 or 3.5, yeah,
right. Then you're like, okay, Wilson and company, they have the talent and the capabilities to keep it within that type of a stretch. But if you're telling me that you can walk away with a game-winning field goal for the Rams or whatever the case may be, like, yeah, I still see the Rams winning this game, and I honestly think it's going to be by a touchdown.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down with that. I also like the over, I think, here. It's at 54.5 at Caesars. It is currently still regular juice. I've seen it elsewhere creeping up a bit to the point where we could see it get to 55. So if you like it, go ahead and take it now.
It's gone up pretty consistently throughout the week too. I think it opened at 53.
Yeah, I believe that was one where Breach and I said on the Sunday night look ahead that you should take it now rather than wait on it. But that's.
I mean, you have both of these teams that they're inside the top 10 in points scored, and they're allowing around 25 points per game. You're looking at, and again, the yardage totals too, in terms of total yards allowed. I believe they're both in the top 5 or the top 10 in the NFL. Like these defenses give up chunk plays, a ton of yards. There should be a lot of offense in this game. Again, even if they go somewhat close to their season averages around 25 points, you're at 50. You're already flirting with it to begin with, but we anticipate it to be even more scoring than in typical games here. So to me, yeah, I'm with you too. I love the over.
Yeah, over there, and I would lean Rams. I don't know if I'm going to bet the Rams, but I would definitely. And you can't really tease. I guess if you're going to do a teaser of any kind, it would be with the Seahawks because you don't want to tease through 0. And I don't hate. Anyway, we don't need teasers. I like the Rams, and I like the Rams. I love the over. I think we just see a bunch of scoring, and it's one of those where if you can. So Seahawks similar to the Vikings, where if you can draw them into get a lead. And I know we were talking about how they ran 46. They didn't change how they're going to operate, but they're playing a division opponent on the road. They're going to start chunking it down the field and find a DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So, do we like the overs on their props? We'll tell you after the break. All right, so let's dive into some props that we like. Sully, I usually because I'm a schmo hog, I go first, but I'll let you go first this time. What's but it was bad luck when I took the lead last time. What is which one of your favorite props in
Well,
this game?
I'll give you a combo here because it's revolving around the two quarterbacks and their completion props throughout the game here. To me, I love the over on both of them because, like we're talking about, we anticipate this being an over game, high scoring, a lot of passing. So to me, I love the over on Stafford's 25.5 completions, the over on Russell Wilson's 24.5 completions. You look at what Seattle has given up through the air this season. They're averaging 26.2-ish completions per game, obviously over here. Same thing with the Rams. They've actually allowed, I believe, the second most completions in the NFL, only looking up to the Buccaneers, and that's around 29 completions per game. So again, you're looking at a high, two very skilled quarterbacks in Stafford and Wilson. You're looking at offenses that, are very potent. They can pretty much pop off at any time here, especially with those guys. And they're going up against defenses that are pretty, susceptible to the pass here. So to me, those two make a lot of sense. Again, you're not getting a crazy amount of odds here, but still, I like the over on those both.
I was actually kind of looking at I had the Russell Wilson under 24 and a half on my list. And that's not that I don't disagree with you. I mean, he can obviously get there, but
he hasn't done it this season. That's the only thing with him.
Correct.
He hasn't done it yet.
22, 23, and 16 so far this season. And he's done, again, he had 22 completions against the Titans and threw for 343 yards. That's zany, man. 18 completions against the Colts and threw for 254 yards. 11. His yards per attempt is through the roof. Now, it came back down to earth big time against the 49ers, 6.5 yards per attempt. I'm curious to see how this works for again, like this is the same offense we saw before where Russell Wilson does not have a ton of volume. He has a ton of efficiency down the field. So that's why I was looking at that under on completions. You can get hosed here quickly. I had the under on Joe Burrow completions a couple weeks ago when, I guess it was actually last Thursday when they played the Jaguars. I felt really good about that. And they came out on the first drive, Joe Burrow's dinking and dunking, picks up a bunch early. And this is sort of a similar script that I think you could see play out in this particular game. Seahawks get the ball first. Russ comes out. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, look at Shane Waldron's offense. We're running tempo. We're hitting Lockett and DK Metcalf short. Oh, there's Gerald Everett. I guess Gerald Everett's on the IR, but you get the point. Freddie Swaim, if he plays, they're digging and dunking all over the place. They get down there, they kick a field goal. Then they go into their turtle offense. Rams score 2 touchdowns. It's 14-3 at half or 17-3 or 14-6 at half or whatever it is, or 21-6. And Russell Wilson has to come back, and all of a sudden he's throwing a ton in the second half. So that would be my concern about taking the under on his total completions is I think you could potentially have early passes followed by a second half comeback that, whether it falls short or not, leads to Russell Wilson throwing a ton of passes. So that would concern me a little bit. I think there's good value on 2 over reception props, though. If we go and look at, I didn't love the receiving yards. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather today. That's how I keep coughing if you're just watching on video. I think the over 6.5 receptions for Cooper Kupp minus 145. Obviously that's a lot of juice. You don't like to lay juice. I don't really care about laying juice quite as much as sharp bettors do. His reception totals in his first 4 games, 7, 9, 9, and 5. And those reception totals came on targets of 10, 11, 12, and 13. Cooper Kupp is muy simpatico with Matthew Stafford. They are on the same page. Matthew Stafford is feeding him. I mean, his target percentage is outrageous. He's not going to catch 38% of his pass, 39% of his passes moving forward. He's going to, they had an off game against the Cardinals. I fully expect to see him get 10 plus targets again against the Seahawks. And if he does that, he's going to get 7 catches, in my humble opinion. Of course, things can go wrong, but it's probably going to be closer to 11 or 12. This is not going to be some magic Robert Woods game, I don't think. Thought about taking the under on Woods, but maybe they get him a little more involved. Van Jefferson's number is probably spot on, but I pump faked you. But the DK Metcalf number is the one that I really like as well. Over 5.5. Tyler Lockett's banged up, and I don't think they're going to use him quite as much if they can help it to try and maybe ease his snaps back. I think DK's number is probably lower. His receiving yards number and his receptions number is lower because there's this perception that Jalen Ramsey will just shadow him the entire time, and maybe he will. But DK Metcalf is the type of receiver who can still produce at a high level, even when he's got a guy like Ramsey draped all over him. I looked at it. The yardage doesn't always get there for him, but you will see him have like 5 catches for 29 yards, even with Metcalf on him. And eventually, I believe they'll feed him enough where he'll either have a jailbreak for a touchdown. But to me, he's going to get 6 catches in this game at least.
Yeah, I like all those. I love the Cooper Kupp one. Again, I was looking at it. He's averaging 11.5 targets per game, which is just ridiculous. I mean, I know his receiving prop is somewhere in the 80s, but like when you're talking about a target share that sizable, you're feeling pretty good about it. But to me, I want to stick with the receptions here. You said that Van Jefferson's is probably spot on, but I love the over on it. Past 2 games, he's had 6 targets in each of them, including last week where he caught all 6 of his targets. I mean, he is growing in this offense as much as everybody's kind of freaking out about Robert Woods and he's not performing. And I'm probably taking a ton of unders on Robert Woods just going forward until he shows me anything. But Van Jefferson, he's the one that's benefiting a lot from Robert Woods not being involved. Matthew Stafford's at least looking his way, these past few weeks. It's been increasing 6 and 6. And last week was his best game of the season. 6 catches for I forget how many yards, but he caught
90
a
yards
touchdown
and a
there
touchdown,
as well.
yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that is a great play there at just 3.5. Again, if he continues just to get his regular volume, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks, that one should go over.
Yeah, and the thing about Jefferson that's exciting is even last week his best game of the season, it was his lowest snap count of the year at 68% of the snaps, 69, 92, 77, and 68. He has played on the season. He's not being used. He's only played 1 snap on special teams. So, and I noted that it's crazy. His we'll talk about this in a second, but his first touchdown prop is 12-1. What?
Yep. That's
wild.
I have that written down right there.
60-1.
That is my lotto right there. That's the guy.
I don't know. That's too low. It's like, I need some more than that for Van Jefferson. What else you got props wise?
And so for me, the other one that I have again is Robert Woods. I mentioned it briefly, his receiving yards prop. Last I saw it was 60.5. He's only gone over that once, that's a huge number for a guy that it seems like every week he's trending on Twitter because fantasy owners are like, is he hurt? Where is he? What's going on with Robert Woods? Because we all thought going into the season, as somebody who drafted Robert Woods in my longest running league with my friends, and they all like to make fun of me because of it. I'm like, this is the guy Matthew Stafford's going to throw to. He's going to have a crazy year. I was right that one of the Rams was going to have a crazy year. It just happened to be Cooper Kupp and not Robert Woods. So to me, he is not involved in this offense. I know it's a little bit misleading, his stats last week, because he caught a touchdown at the very end of the game. I think even, I didn't even know. I shut it off. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm about to lose this week. And I look back and he has a ton of points. I'm like, what the heck happened? And he ended up catching a touchdown. But again, it's very, last second, not really that impactful, garbagey time, Robert Woods stats. I'm going so under on that. It's not even funny.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that worries me about Robert Woods, whoa, you see that? His yardage just moved a yard while Devo clicked on it. It went from 60.5. What is Caesar's watching here? What's going on? I mean, look, I love it. Honestly, my only concern is that it seems obvious.
Right.
It's like everybody's fading Robert Woods. Is there going to be but he's not a squeaky wheel type, where
I thought that number was pretty high. It almost made me think like, that seems.
Is there something I don't know?
Right. Exactly. Like I actually, you're looking around like, okay, is somebody hurt? What's going on here? But again, it's obvious. It does seem like it's obvious. This could be a game where it's like, all right, let's start to, lessen the workload of Cooper Kupp. Let's try to feature Robert Woods. Sure. But there's been no evidence of that throughout the first month of the season here. And again, I know you're facing against the Seattle team that doesn't have a particularly great secondary. Maybe it's a soft opponent that you start to kind of try to figure things out with Robert Woods. But to me, again, there's been zero evidence of it so far. And if they're going to start to work somebody, I think it might be Van Jefferson. I just think that he's somebody who is at least warranted. Again, you said last week, the lowest snap total of the season, and he rewards them with 6 receptions and a touchdown. So, if they're going to start to feature somebody, it'll probably be someone like him who's seemingly, earned it so far.
I will say that Sean McVay was asked about Robert Woods, and I'm reading this via Pro Football Talk, but he said, I'm not worried about Robert Woods' demeanor and disposition. He's a captain. He was frustrated because I think that was a flip of, he was like flipped the ball or something like that. I think it was a flip of we scored, but that was a frustrating day for all of us. Nobody wants to be, blah, 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 blah. The guy's a stud in every sense of the word. It's important to be able to get a handful of guys involved. That's something I always want to continue to be. This is yesterday, by the way, to be intentional about it, or on Tuesday, excuse me. I think that's one of the benefits, blah, 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 blah. But the long story short is we just need to get him some more opportunities, and that starts with me. So that'd be my one concern.
Sure.
Sully, is there's like is it a squeaky wheel feed Robert Woods game that Sean McVay feels like, all right, Bob Trees is bothered by not getting the ball enough. So worth, at least worth considering. First touchdown prop score. One more. Sorry, you don't have to go back to it, Debo, but I'm just going to throw it out there. The Caesars number for Matthew Stafford rushing yards is 5.5. That over. Hit that over. They're using his legs on some of these play action looks.
It should 21 yards last week.
Yeah, it should be like 8.5 or something like that. So there's some good value there. I project him well over 10 yards in this particular spot. I gotta be honest, first touchdown score, these are bad odds. This is my favorite market to dip into. I'm probably not going to dip aggressively into it. You can't have this many people below 8 or 1 or below. I mean, it's Cup 5.5 to 5 plus 575, Darrell Henderson plus 625, Carson plus 650, Woods 7.5. I mean, why is Robert Woods 7.5 to 1? DK Metcalf 8 to 1, Tyler Lockett 10 to 1, Van Jefferson down to 11 to 1. Steam. Tyler Higbee was locked earlier. He's 12 to 1. Sony Michel, 17 to 1. Freddie, why is Freddie Swain? I want 42 to 1 on Freddie Swain. This is ridiculous. 17.5 to 1 on Freddie Swain scored the first touchdown. Get out of here. The only bets I'm going to make in this market will be Deshaun Jackson at 24 to 1, Russell Wilson at 24 to 1, and Matthew Stafford at 35 to 1. Maybe tonight I'll be mad and I'll be bitter. If I find any of those top tier guys at 10 to 1 or better, just because of the way that the market moves, I'll probably bet them as well. But Deshaun Jackson, who they talked about, they love to get involved. Russ Wilson has, wheels, and Matthew Stafford I don't think they're afraid to bootleg him near the end zone. So those three guys make a lot of sense at their price tag. This is just frankly poorly priced. It's a poorly priced market for consumers.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. It's really kind of tough to pinpoint one that really will produce a lot of value. I do like Van Jefferson first touchdown. To me, that one makes a lot of sense just because I like how he's developing coming into this game. But I do also like Deshaun Jackson there as well. Again, that's great odds for somebody who, again, they give probably, I don't know, what would you say? 1, 2, 3 opportunities a game where it's just run down the field as fast as you can, and we're going to heave it up to you, and we'll see if we can do it.
And honestly, on the last two, oddly enough, Matthew Stafford has kind of underthrown him. He had him on a previous one that Deshaun Jackson had to adjust back to, where if he just Stafford can throw the ball as far as anybody on the planet Earth, right? I mean, not named Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, I guess, but that's just, to me, I think that's Jordan Rodriguez, friend of the program, pointed this out, is like that's one of those things too where chemistry matters. And we just assume that Matthew Stafford has all this great chemistry, especially the way Cooper Kupp has gone. But sometimes it takes a little while. The Van Jefferson thing, they've used him in the red zone a ton. So I don't mind it. I just wish it was like 20 to 1. If it was 20 to 1, it's like my favorite prop. I almost bet him in week 1 when he scored. I can't remember Sunday Night Football, but he scored the opening touchdown there. All right, let's anything else on props, or should we go to DFS?
Let's go to DFS. Let's hit it.
All right, let's do it. So apologies if you're watching on YouTube. My stinking why am I in a golf DFS situation? My computer is being weird and won't even let me log into DraftKings. I guess that's bad. The good news is I can log into StreamYard now, but just can't log into DraftKings. So you get the video, but you just don't get the screen share. Captains. Cooper Kupp 18.6, which is wild.
Crazy price.
Russell Wilson 17.7, Matthew Stafford 17.1, DK Metcalf 15.3 with a questionable tag currently as we record this on Wednesday. I assume he'll be cleared by Thursday. Tyler Lockett 14.4, no questionable tag for Tyler Lockett. That's weird. Darrell Henderson with a questionable tag 12.6. Robert Woods 11.4, Chris Carson 9.9, also again a questionable tag. And then you get into the backup quarterbacks, Jake Luton and Bryce Perkins. So those are your high-end but I always consider like the high-end captains until you get to the backup quarterback.
Right.
You're like those are the ones that people are primarily looking at. And then you have John Walford and Geno Smith, of course, Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson, Freddie Swain, Deshaun Jackson below them. Who's your favorite target at the captain spot?
I think out of like that top tier collection of guys, Cup, Wilson, Stafford. I mean, it kind of drops off a little bit after that to Metcalf. But to me, I like Stafford. Stafford, I think this is a game where you can see Seattle trying to correct themselves after scoring just 20 points a week ago. And it's really like, it was really like 13 points. Again, they got that late touchdown, and that was kind of just one of those, late garbage. For the bulk of the game, they weren't really able to get much going offensively. So to me, I think that they come out of the gates firing, throwing against a poor Seattle defense that's given up a good chunk of yards. So to me, I like how it's working for Stafford and the narrative going into his game. So to me, I would probably go Stafford.
Got no problem with that. Seattle is a top 10 defense in terms of points allowed. So it's like a top 10 beneficial defense for quarterbacks in fantasy this year. Seattle also, I believe, top 10-ish in terms of wide receivers and top 15-ish in terms of tight ends. At the running back position, you can run all over the Seahawks. So I like the Stafford call for sure. I'll be very curious to see what Darrell Henderson's ownership is, because at 12-6 with a questionable tag and Sony Michel, and Sony Michel fumbled in a big spot last week and didn't see the field again for the rest of the game. I think that in this game, if Darrell Henderson can grab the hot hand, you could see him get 80-90% of the carries and the snaps here and end up having a monster game. I forgot on my props. Sorry about this. I forgot. Darrell Henderson anytime touchdown is plus 127. I like that because they're going to use him near the goal line. So if you would go Darrell Henderson, we'll come back and we'll start with yours. We'll go Matthew Stafford at captain. And where would you go from there? I assume you're going to stack Cooper Kupp.
Yep, I would I'm stacking Kupp, and I'm trying to get Van Jefferson in there. Let me just put him in.
All right, so Kupp 12-4. Van, you're going to skip over, go down to Van Jefferson at 4-8. He's going to be chalky as hell.
Yeah, he will be. And then the other one that I want to try to move in here, again, it's it's a little bit of a contrarian, but we don't necessarily know. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday. We're not 100% sure what's going to happen, but Chris Carson did miss practice with a neck thing. He's kind of, they said it was a Veterans Day on Monday, but then he still had something.
You're going to Alex Collins here?
So are we going Alex Collins? Just again, it's a
very good. Collins' usage is pretty good relative to at 3,200. That's not bad at all. Yeah.
Right. And then you get about like 6,200 that you can split. I mean, I don't know if you want to look at Higbee and then see what goes on up top, and then you're sitting there.
What your one problem is the game script there is not exactly ideal for bombs away rate. Although I guess if Alex Collins is just eating up, if you get Russ and then
it's very similar when I was constructing these rosters. It's very similar. I believe it was it last week or was it Monday Night Football, where you had a lot of these high priced guys and it was tough to squeeze a bunch in. Again, when you're talking about the main captain Cooper Kupp being so highly priced, 18.6. I mean, it's tough to start to try to construct something that makes a ton of sense.
Monday night you needed I actually did well on the bottom end Monday night, and Mike Williams just completely busted out and killed my lineups. Otherwise I would have won a ton of money. But I had Donald Parham in a bunch, I had Justin Jackson in a bunch, and both exceeded their price tags like easily. But the problem is you had to have Eckler as your captain, and then and so that's sort of the thing you need to look at here. It's tough too because there's not a bunch of attractive names down at the bottom. I think you need to have Russell. Jeez Louise. If you go Stafford as captain, it's tough to get these guys in here. All right, I want to look at this.
It's tough to squeeze. Let's look
at this Henderson captain option. So a Henderson captain option. And we know if we're going to do Henderson as the captain that we need to have Russell, unless we're just playing for a full-blown blowout, which I don't think is the move. I don't think the Rams just obliterate the Seahawks at home. I think the Seahawks will be able to throw the football.
Right.
So let you stack Russell and DK or Lockett.
I'm more towards DK, I think. Although it's not a crazy price difference. Again, $600. It's not in favor of Lockett. You getting $600 extra dollars. Again, the last few weeks here, like you said, Lockett hasn't looked particularly great. It could be banged up. I would probably go.
He's definitely dealing with a hip injury for sure.
So I'm going Metcalf.
Okay, Metcalf it is. All right, so if we do, man, this is tough. Even with so you got Russell with DK. I guess you could what you could do is just throw in Russell, DK, and Lockett, and then Van Jefferson and Travis Homer. Ew, God, this is a tough. This is a difficult. There's nobody down low to get savings off of.
Exactly.
To get you into, because you got Jay Sternberger 200, the stone minimum, but I mean he literally just signed. No, he's not even on the team. He's just signed with Washington. What am I talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Jake Funk. Oh no, Jake Funk is an interesting one because he's gotten one carry in 3 games. But if for some reason something happened to Sony Michel or Darrell Henderson, maybe they feed Jake Funk, and you would just need a catch.
I was gonna say minimal.
Yeah. 1 catch or like 2 carries. I mean, God forbid you get a touchdown with him. That's at least somebody that you can save with if you were so inclined. It is really, really difficult to get the quarterbacks in here. Maybe the move is, all right, so let's go with your boy Van Jefferson as our captain. He's priced down,
Okay.
right? You go with him as the captain, and you can go Russ, DK, Stafford. No cup, but you can get Deshaun Jackson, and then you can also toss in Freddie Swain. So if you go Van Jefferson as your captain, you can get 2 pass. You can get both quarterbacks and 2 pass catchers. Although you don't have you would have to pick one elite option out of the entire board if you wanted to be able to go that route. So just a thought there.
Yeah. My question would be, again, like we said, we think that this game's going to go over. We think that, it's going to be, you're probably not going to play the defenses in DFS here. But if you were, I would probably be more prone to go Rams defense. So do you go maybe in that scenario, do you go Henderson as your captain, then you throw in the Rams defense and you try to construct a roster that way?
Yeah, that's a good correlation. So
that's
you go Henderson. Yeah, I mean, and we're probably not doing a great. I've noticed a lot of these sharper DFS guys in these contests too. I don't know like a name like their DFS, like whistles go woo or whatever. But a lot of these guys have been using the defenses in these spots and have been, it's maybe competitive late because if you get a turnover, if you get a couple of turnovers, you get a sack, a couple of sacks, you get a touchdown, defensive touchdown, which is entirely possible. Aaron Donald strip sack of Russell Wilson, and then they house it, and then all of a sudden you've got a huge leg up on the field. So yeah, I mean, I think you could go. Let's see. All right, yeah, you can go Henderson and then Rams, and then you bring that back with a Russell. You can't quite go. You have to pick between DK and Lockett, but you would be able to grab, one of these lower end guys, or you go Jake Funk there. Yeah, that's not crazy. Where you lean on it's the Rams rushing attack that you're trying to target with the comeback on the Seattle passing attack. This is a really hard slate to figure out. Honestly, I'm gonna have to spend some more time diving into it.
Yeah, for sure. The only other name that I think somewhat catches my eye does Travis Homer do anything for you, especially if it is an Alex Collins game and Carson's limited, and all of a sudden they're starting to pass a little bit more. Like, is Homer somebody that is, if this game turns into somewhat of a shootout, is he involved a little bit more? Again, I believe it. Yeah, he's $1,000.
So if you look at their two, all right. So if you're playing it, that the Rams, you only want to use Travis Homer if you're playing in it and playing the script as a Rams are winning, and the Seahawks 2 wins. Travis Homer saw 75+% of the special team snaps and less than 16 or less percent of the offensive snaps, 0 targets, 0 catches, 1 rush last week against San Francisco. In the Seattle Seahawks 2 losses where they were trailing and trying to come back, Homer saw his special team snaps dipped tremendously, and he saw 26 and 30% respectively of those offensive snaps, had 5 total catches on 5 targets in those games. So yes, makes total sense if you're building it, that's actually a good call, Sully, is if you're building this as like there's a good correlation between Darrell Henderson and Travis Homer, right? So if you like the Rams defense and Darrell Henderson, this is actually kind of interesting. You go Darrell Henderson, Rams defense, Russ, DK, Lockett, and Travis Homer. And so the idea being, I mean, obviously the Rams defense here is kind of tricky, but or you go Van Jefferson in that spot.
Say that to me again. I have a lineup right here where it's Henderson, Rams defense, Homer, Metcalf, Stafford, and Wilson.
Oh, there you go.
And you're pretty much you're right at 0. You spent everything, but
Yeah, you
that's
go Stafford and then Rams defense. There you go. So you assume that nobody gets a heavy target load from Matthew Stafford. That then with a lead, they then feed Darrell Henderson aggressively and let him get downhill. And you may even want to include Sony Michel in there. And then you have Russell Wilson passing it around to Homer and Metcalf as they try to furiously come back.
not out of the realm of possibility. I
No,
like that
not at
one.
all.
Yeah, I like that.
A lot of builds, crazy game potential tonight. It'll be in Seattle. You know it'll be weird. Sully, as always, buddy. Yeah, thanks, and we'll talk to you on Monday.